Alright, so in level 4, the last rule here is negative exponents, which is a very simple rule, and it's really not that challenging, but it is one that most people struggle with. And so hopefully in this type of problem by itself, you understand what you need to do, and then you're able to apply it, for instance, in number 4 when you have some other things going on. Negative exponents cannot be left in your answer. If you write down an answer with negative exponents, it's wrong. So if you were to say, oh, for number 12 on the quiz, I get an answer of x to the negative 2, and I put a box around it, that's my answer. I'll tell you right now, I don't even care what the negative exponent is wrong. So anytime you see a negative exponent, you got to change the sign. You got to make it positive. So here's how this works. If you have a negative exponent, x to the negative 1, the way to make it positive is by flipping the fraction. So what happens is you have to take whatever exponent is negative, and let's say this is over 1, anything that is negative, so x is negative because it has a negative 1 exponent to it, it needs to drop to the bottom. It needs to flip. The process of flipping it down to the bottom, of moving it down to the bottom, gets rid of the negative sign. So then that ends up equaling, okay, it's just a positive 1 now, and then you just got a 1 on top. Similarly, if you had 1 over, let's just say x to the negative 2, you have a negative exponent. Can't have that. So that whole thing that has a negative needs to move to the other side of the fraction. This time, since it's on the bottom, it moves to the top. So negative exponents don't always necessarily move to the bottom. They just flip. They cross the fraction line. If they're on top, they go down the bottom. Negative goes away. If they're on the bottom, they go up to the top. Negative goes away. So in this case, this would just equal x squared over 1, or just x squared. Okay? Alright, so for in the first example, we have x to the negative 2nd. That's pretty much exactly what I just did. What I like to do is put it over 1, make it a fraction, so you're very clear what's going on here. If you take this negative exponent and flip it, what happens is the negative goes away, so it's just x squared, but then you have to keep a 1 on top. Common mistake is a lot of people will forget about the 1 on top. You need a place to hold, you need to hold that top numerator, so you need to at least put something up there if there's nothing there, which in this case would be a 1. Next problem, we have k to the negative 4th. It's on the bottom, so it's got to flip up to the top. Now there's already a 3 up top, but then the k to the 4th comes up top. Keep in mind when you flip it, the negative goes away, and you're done. In this problem, number 3, we have 2 negatives. We have y to the negative 5, which is going to have to flip to the bottom, but x to the negative 3, which is going to have to flip to the top. So if we rearrange this, the x to the negative 3rd comes up, and it's x cubed, positive. Y negative 5 comes to the bottom, it's y to the 5th, positive, and you're done. Now if they were the same variable, if they were both x's, then you'd have to simplify a little bit, but in this case you do not have to. Alright, finally, number 4 is the hardest one here. Keep in mind all the rules from level 2 and level 3 all apply, even if you're doing level 4. 36 over 24 reduces. They both divide by 12, so you get 3 over 2. Now, we see that there's a negative 2 for the x. Where does that go? It's on top, so it goes on the bottom. Now, keep in mind, we already have 6 on the bottom. So if there's 2 more coming on the bottom, we already had 6, there's going to be 2 more coming down. Okay, so we'll talk about what that means in a second. Then, with the y's, there's a negative 3, it flips up. Keep in mind the only thing that flips are negative exponents. So just because we learned about negative exponents now, and we flip things, don't flip everything. So we already had a y to the 10th on the top, but now we have y cubed coming up as well. So if we simplify, we have 3 still on top, we have 2 still on the bottom. What do we do when we have y to the 10th and y cubed like that? Remember, when we multiply, we really add exponents, and on the bottom, we would add 6 and 2 to get 8. So you get 3y to the 13th over 2x to the 8th.